He didn't know how Yujin could have subdued a fully grown level C monster. Now the situation had turned against him. His decision to confine Yujin here was his mistake, and he would pay for underestimating an awakened level C pseudo-beast controlled by Branky. Losing a hand to the kidnapper had proved extremely uncomfortable. It was quite different from what he had heard about Yujin. He never expected Yujin could do something like this. Yujin looked at him with determination. You don't believe a level C pseudo-beast could do this, right? Actually, I can do more than you think. He recalled the moment when he stood before a blinded level C monster. He had almost no resistance left and thought he would die for sure this time. Even with his resistance to poison and curses due to his skills, a direct bite would have meant certain death. Of course, he couldn't just sit and wait to die. Though blinded, he could still use his tools. Yujin took out a small knife and cut the blindfold for himself. However, facing a level C monster was overwhelming for a weak pseudo-beast hunter like him. But something unexpected happened. For some reason, the monster didn't attack but instead retreated, showing signs of fear. It was because La Cheetah's enemy detection skill had activated, doubling all skills when facing CJY-type monsters. Since it affected dragon species using curses and toxins, and CZ was also a dragon species, it was genuinely threatened by the high-level dragon. It looked at Yujin with horror, trembling all over. Yujin thought that the doubling effect also applied to skills affecting him. He discarded the knife to show goodwill, wanting to befriend it. He took out a level C magic stone from his pouch and fed it to the monster. That was how he managed to tame it within 3 minutes. This time, Yujin was truly fortunate. However, in front of him was still a level B hunter, and this dragon monster only belonged to levels C and F. There was still a considerable obstacle to overcome. As it lunged to bite him, Blackie, as Yujin named it, received a command. The dragon rushed forward, snapping its teeth, grabbing the kidnapper's arm. The level B hunter was not an easy target. He swung his arm forcefully, breaking the teeth into pieces. Though he'd escaped, his arm had been poisoned. Before he could regain his composure, Yujin approached from behind and stabbed deep into his arm with a dagger. Even with a disabled arm, Yujin would have the advantage. However, due to Yujin's weakened condition from the poison, he couldn't inflict significant injuries. The hunter swung his arm violently, pushing Yujin away. Yujin continued his assault. Even a small knife had an effect on a weakened level B hunter due to poisoning and injuries. Humiliating him, he clung to his injured arm, gnashing his teeth in pain, not giving him time to breathe. Continuing to command Blackie to attack the kidnapper, Yujin thought, even though he was a level B hunter, he wouldn't just stand still and wait to die. Summoning his remaining arm, he summoned his weapon with determination. He was indeed a level B hunter. Despite being weakened by poison and losing a hand, the level C monster was still too easy to be slain with one decisive blow. As he turned to look at Yujin with murderous eyes, he thought that only he could do anything, but he didn't know the nightmare was just beginning. Yujin remained silent, sitting down, placing his hand on Breaky's body. As the kidnapper sought revenge, he suddenly felt his body weaken, and the poison began to spread. He collapsed, almost devoid of strength. He cried out, "What's happening? I've killed it, and its curse was even lower than my level. Why?" He looked up, and Yujin had transformed. Yujin's eyes were now yellow, like Breaky's. Not only that, but there were also Breaky's fangs behind him. It was because the skill of La Cheetah's enemy detection had finally been activated. It had helped him survive until now. All of Breaky's skills and stats had been transferred to Yujin with twice the efficiency. Additionally, the activation of La Cheetah's enemy skill had increased the emotional impact effect twice, resulting in a 4-fold increase in skill effects. Thus, it was understandable that a level B hunter couldn't withstand it. He writhed in agony, lying on the ground with his body poisoned to the extreme. At present, besides waiting for death, he could do nothing else. Yujin looked at him with icy eyes. Why did you want to disturb someone who just wanted to live peacefully? Yujin grabbed the kidnapper's head. Answer me now. Where is P? But the kidnapper, being stubborn, not only remained silent but also uttered insults. The dog who gave birth to you. What kind of monster is he? You miserable creature. I will kill you, remember my words. His words only made Yujin feel even more icy. He looked at him, expressionless. It seemed like he wouldn't speak. So, I think there's no reason to spare you anymore, Yujin uttered, activating his deadly skill. From his hand, a stream of dark, sinister water slowly flowed, corroding his opponent's defensive aura. Yujin took the life of the hunter B rank without revealing any emotion. Sorry, but my skills are not allowed to be disclosed of others, he stated. Yujin didn't think he would ever take a life, but now regretted not leaving his opponent's body intact because they had a girl who could rid the thoughts of the dead through empathetic skills. Thanks to this last skill, Yujin was now truly powerful. He couldn't control the sudden surge in power. This skill used to last only an hour, but now it had extended to a week. Stopping briefly to check Breaky's skills, Yujin discovered a highly useful one, a D-rank skill. It allowed the user to blend with the surroundings to conceal their presence, essentially turning invisible. Another skill was the intuition of the weak, helping the user detect stronger foes. With these two skills, Yujin could confidently seek out Pit without fearing encountering someone stronger. Yujin activated his body's automatic transformation to blend with the colors and environment around him. In the rooms where the kidnappers were still chatting, they were unaware of the impending danger due to Yujin's invisibility. He easily subdued them with his skillful techniques until they were all unconscious, not understanding what had happened. Entering the last room, Yujin kicked the door open. Inside, there was a guy sitting casually, engrossed in playing a game on his phone. Seeing Yujin standing at the door, he startled, dropping his phone. He turned and asked how Yujin managed to escape. Yujin didn't bother with nonsense, asking straight, "Where's the fire mage? My horn?" But he didn't say anything. Holding a metal box nearby, he threw it past Yujin. With a sneer, Yujin said, "You're lucky to escape from me. You should have fled instead of coming to me." Drawing his weapon, the guy acted tough, saying he was holding the key to the mage's cell. "Why didn't you come here and take it from the B-rank hunter instead of me, a mere D-rank hunter?" Before he could finish his sentence, a sudden blow from an invisible stake twisted his mouth, leaving him puzzled as to why he was being punched. Yujin coldly handed over the key and revealed where Pit was. The guy hesitated but then agreed. "Fine, I'll take you to the cell in the first ship, but I have a condition. You have to sign a contract before I hand it over. I need to ensure my safety through the contract you sign here. Don't attack me afterwards." Yujin added the condition that he couldn't disclose anything about Yujin. Without hesitation, the guy signed, thinking everything was settled. But suddenly, his eyes gleamed with malice. He transformed his hand into a demon's hand and lunged at Yujin, grabbing his neck. He chuckled. "You're easy to deceive, aren't you? You can't attack me anymore, thanks to that contract. If you attack me, you'll be blinded." In fact, the ridiculous contract couldn't stop Yujin. He intentionally signed it to spare the guy's life, but he ended up attacking anyway. Yujin didn't bother to respond to his arrogant words. He just tore up the contract, looking at the guy coldly. The contract was nullified, terrifying the Hunter C rank. The curse of silence was disabled by Yujin's skill, making the guy horrified. Yujin grabbed his hand coldly, apologizing for shattering his dreams. "This outcome is your choice." Then came the desperate screams of the Hunter C rank. He no longer had a form, turning into a puddle of toxic water. Yujin calmly left to find the place where Pit was being held captive. Passing through other rooms, the kidnappers were still unconscious. Yujin spared them and returned to Breaky's cell. After all, Breaky died protecting him. Yujin turned him into a magical stone as he searched for the cage holding Pit. Seeing Pit still sleeping, Yujin gently opened the door. If he took Pit away now, suspicions would arise about the deaths of Hunters B and C. Yujin sat down, embracing Peace in his arms. "Do you want to stay here with Daddy?" While waiting for everyone to arrive, he looked at Peace with tender eyes. Yujin said cheerfully, "You're fine. Don't worry. Don't die on me yet, okay?" Maybe in the time of training and nurturing affection, what Yujin has for Peace isn't just as simple as owner and pet anymore. He continued to hold Peace close, and they both fell asleep on the boat. A few hours later, amidst the bustling footsteps of many, all from Abyss, searching anxiously, Yujin was still peacefully asleep, unaware until Yuhan's proximity warning jolted him awake. Hastily receiving the news of Yujin's discovery, Yuhan rushed to his side, helping his older brother up and inquiring about his condition. Yujin, trying to play it off, pretended to be tired, while Yim and Sung-han swiftly entered through a side door, bending the iron bars to reach Yoo-jin. As Yoo-jin stood up, his right leg still sore from the hunter's blow, he stumbled, and his younger siblings immediately rushed to support him. "Where does it hurt, you idiot?" Yim asked angrily. "I'll go find and punch whoever did this to you to ease the tension." Despite the pain, Yoo-jin managed to smile and reassured them. It's okay, it's not that bad, I can still walk." However, they insisted on helping him, carrying their elder brother with utmost care, leaving bystanders astonished and admiring. Though grateful for the concern, Yoo-jin couldn't shake off a sense of embarrassment as he was lifted into a car. He wanted to take his brother to the hospital for a checkup to be sure. The mention of the hospital made Yoo-jin turn pale. He feared that all the secrets of Breaky's skills might be exposed there, which would remain active for another week. Despite his protests, his younger brother remained adamant. Resorting to his ultimate skill, Yoo-jin put on a show of discomfort, expressing his reluctance to go to the hospital, fearing encountering strangers or undergoing sedation or tests. His supreme skill didn't disappoint. Yoo-han immediately took the hint, apologizing for being too cautious, and suggesting they head back. However, Yoo-han remained uneasy, scrutinizing every corner of his older brother's body. Suddenly, with a stern expression, Yoo-han said something that made Yoo-jin slightly nervous. "I feel something odd about you. There's a reptilian scent on you." Yoo-jin quickly activated his hidden skill to conceal Breaky's smell before casually responding. "Ah, it's probably the sea scent from crossing this embankment." Nonetheless, they continued home, relieved that they had passed this hurdle after a long, exhausting day. Temporarily stripped of their security clearance by the MKC, Yoo-jin's abduction prompted tighter security measures, with new guards personally vetted by the chairman. However, the incident had a profound negative impact on Mangu, whose self-doubt and sense of worthlessness resurfaced. Feeling utterly useless and unable to help, Mangu found himself crying in frustration, pounding the table helplessly, berating himself for his incompetence and inability to be of any use. It seemed that Yoo-jin's recent kidnapping had deeply affected Mangu, making him feel like a surplus, worthless individual who didn't deserve to be by Yoo-jin's side or offer any help. Feeling overwhelmed, Mangu left abruptly, leaving Yoo-jin worried sick. Despite Yoo-han's reassurances that Mangu might have just gone out for a while, Yoo-jin was convinced that Mangu had truly left home. Concerned about his younger sibling's delicate nature, Yoo-jin was afraid that someone might exploit Mangu and sell his organs in China, the first victim of the corrupt fund. As for Mangu, he wandered aimlessly under the streetlights, consumed by feelings of weakness and helplessness, too ashamed to face Yoo-jin for not daring to confront the situation and choosing to leave instead. However, even if Mangu wanted to return home, with his absent-minded nature, he would likely struggle to do so, becoming a wandering, inept, but well-intentioned mess of a person. As he bent down to tie his backpack, clumsily fumbling with the straps, his belongings spilled out, symbolizing the chaotic state of his mind and his inability to keep everything together. While lamenting their fate and feeling sorry for themselves, two sisters stared at him, not recognizing him. They looked at Mangu's card and cheered excitedly. "Ah, you were from the ABS Guild." Mangu, feeling embarrassed, confessed that he was just a dormitory caretaker for the guild, and even revealed that he was just a lackey for the boss. Instantly, Mangu got the attention of those around him, filled with curiosity. Unintentionally, he gained too much attention, leaving Mangu feeling confused. He mustered up the courage to admit, "I'm just a lackey, and even if I woke up, without combat skills, I'd be useless." This statement was like a sharp knife stabbing into Mangu's weak heart. The children's mocking remarks deepened Mangu's despair, imagining a scenario where he'd acquire 10,000 knives and still receive worthless skills, leading to abandonment by everyone, including Yoo-jin. Mangu broke down in tears, and the children, frightened, blamed the older sister, who had provoked him. They wondered what to do next, and one suggested helping him. Taking Mangu's hand, she promised to help him acquire a valuable skill. This led to Mangu's first trials, enduring suffocation underwater and being pushed from the second floor, barely surviving each time. Despite the ordeal, Mangu continued to follow the children's lead, even though they were bullies. The next challenge involved crossing an 8-lane road with speeding cars. Myung-yu hesitated, but the girl insisted, explaining that the skill would only manifest in life-threatening situations. Despite Myung-yu's shock, he realized the world had changed, favoring combat skills over education. As they contemplated advising the children, a loud explosion echoed, warning of a prison break in Gangnam, near where Myung-yu and the children stood. While others followed, the children eagerly ran towards the prison, hoping to awaken their latent abilities. Left with no choice, Myung-yu followed them into the danger of the prison, where giant spider-like creatures wreaked havoc, leaving destruction in their wake. The buildings were all covered by dense spider webs. According to the field reporter, this was due to a winged biscuit formed within an abandoned shopping center due to not being detected in time, causing this prison explosion. The reporter on the helicopter was startled when he saw something. It was Myung-yu and two children rushing towards the explosion site. At this point, the three of them were surrounded by giant spiders. When the little boy started to panic, it was too late. They had ventured too far into danger. Those who couldn't evacuate in time were caught by the spiders as food reserves. Myung-yu and the two children only knew to run for their lives. Contrary to the scared teenagers, the older sister was very tough. "How could you freeze up here after coming all the way?" she scolded. At this moment, a spider from the side appeared and lunged at them. The two children hugged each other, trembling and crying. The brave little girl stood up in front, spreading her arms to protect the trembling pair behind her. She appeared awakened, swinging her fists confidently. With a determined attitude, she would end it with a secret technique she had practiced for many years. "Watch this, you ugly spider," she shouted confidently. But suddenly, without any surprise, the giant spider effortlessly threw her away with its leg, causing her pain as she struggled to get up, her face now filled with horror. She looked at her hands with desperate eyes. "No, not like this. Not like this." The giant spider didn't let its prey escape, slowly approaching the girl again. It used its sharp, steel-like leg to strike fiercely towards Myung-yu, who gathered all his courage, holding the two children tightly, trying his best to run. Myung-yu wanted to take all three towards the rooftop of a building. If they could get there, it would be easier to contact the rescue team. Myung-yu urged the boy to go by himself, while he carried the older sister, running as fast as he could. But with the overwhelming exhaustion, he could barely move a step. The girl still hasn't regained her spirits. She hugged her face, crying, "Uncle, why did you leave me behind? My life is over," she sobbed. She had just woken up. It was all just coercion. It turns out she woke up and only resorted to coercion, losing all confidence in herself with someone passionate about hunting. It was truly like a death sentence. Before she could climb any higher, the spider had already chased after them to the rooftop. They rushed up the stairs, but fear weighed on their legs like lead. No matter how hard they tried, the girl couldn't lift herself up again. "I told you to leave me behind, but carrying me like this, you won't make it to the rooftop. I'm just a burden. My life is over. I don't have any fighting skills. I'm not worth risking your life for. Just leave me and run." The girl's bitter words made Myung-gu release her, but he didn't run. Instead, he took a knife from his backpack, holding it firmly. He stepped down the stairs. Mangu wanted to shed blood to protect the two children. Though terrified, Mangu's actions showed extreme fear, yet his hand still gripped the knife tightly, as he said to the two children, "I'll hold it back. You two run ahead. Don't say such things. Little ones, you shouldn't say such things as ending your lives or being abandoned. There are still many things you can do. Even if that's not the case, your lives still hold value. So don't sit there crying. Stand up and seek rescue. Then come back here, support each other well while running, okay?" Mangu's words were like reassurance. "So, you don't want to be useless forever, do you? Protecting these two children is a courageous final act in your timid life. So, don't die. The two children are gone now. Please don't die." The shadow of Yujin suddenly appeared before Myunggu's eyes. He was running on the wall upright. Myunggu thought it was an illusion before his death. "Thank you. I'm glad I could see you before I die. Every moment, you are getting closer to me," Mangu said, reaching out his hand eagerly. Yujin ran to him, and Mangu woke up abruptly from his coma, finding himself lying on the sofa in the dormitory. At the same time, the TV reported that the two children he was with had been safely rescued. Mangu realized he wasn't fading away. He didn't remember how he returned to the dormitory. Jin came in with a pot of chicken soup. Still, his demeanor showed he wasn't in a good mood. Mangu asked about his rescue. Yesterday, just like those excavators, Jin explained, I met a nightmare. You are a hunter from AB rescuing and bringing home. Suddenly, Jin grabbed Mangu's collar, his voice full of anger. Anyway, you're reckless. Do you know how dangerous it was? Luckily, the news team accidentally captured and discovered it. Otherwise, who knows what would have happened? It's better not to think about leaving home anymore. Do you know how worried I was, thinking I wouldn't see you again? Though loud, it was all concern for Mangu. Unable to hold back tears, Mangu cried tears of joy. Those tears washed away the burden in his heart, finally dissipating. Mangu finally spoke up. Even if I sharpened 10,000 knives and gained a useless skill, you'd still be my friend, he said. Jin's expression remained displeased. I thought you were going to say something touching. But no, Jin frowned. I thought we were having a serious conversation, but it turns out it's about you leaving home like this, he continued. Right now, I just want to punch this idiot a few times to relieve my frustration. Even without skills, you're doing fine. I heard you were admired by the equipment maintenance department a few days ago, Mangu said, grabbing Jin's shoulder. I have a request. I don't think I can eat anyone else's food besides yours. So if you succeed, don't leave me, or at least visit often and cook for me, he added. These lines sound like they're from a BL novel. Mangu chuckled, surprised. Jin continued the story. I promise I won't be picky. I'll even pay you, but it's best if you keep living with me, he said, expressing his concern. Mangu smiled happily, agreeing. And just like that, Mangu regained his trust in life. Hearing Jin's caring words, of course, with Han's invitation, she was also very excited. It seemed like everyone had gathered, but someone unexpectedly appeared, and it was clear from their expression that they didn't want this person to be present here. The one who arrived and caused this discomfort was none other than the handsome, elegant, wealthy, and top guild leader, Song Hunjae. He also appeared in the A-level dungeon this time, called the City of H. Golem. Here, golems and undead armies were present everywhere. It was a strong and terrifying dungeon. Although slow, they were extremely brutal. The strategy was to separate and slowly eliminate them. But looking at G's expression, things didn't go according to plan. Inside the city of Golem, they were being overwhelmed by the powerful forces of ice, fire, and wind, as Ranhane and Duhan wreaked havoc below. The monsters, considered mere cattle under their power, were like tofu under a knife. A level dungeon with 4 S-level hunters. Even in the future, Jin knew there had never been a team like this before. They were all fighting with all their might. Each used their skills without coordination, ignoring whether they were our allies or not. Their skills clashed, neutralizing each other, rendering them ineffective. Jazim unleashed a wide area skill, hitting the golems and making them stiff, while Duhayan's flames were melting the ice blocks. Meanwhile, Hane was busy fighting, her wind also hitting Jazim accidentally. In short, although they were strong, they were trampling on each other without any teamwork spirit. They were still busy fighting when Jin noticed someone standing calmly there. It was the guild leader of Jupiter, Sung Hun, considered the strongest in the world. He was just standing there calmly. Moreover, he was neatly dressed and handsome. Sung Hun's coat was an SS-grade flame-resistant equipment named Super Flame Dragon Wings. This was the equipment that made Du Hun suffer defeat in future rank battles. Jay was burning with envy. He just wanted to rip that damned coat off Sung Hun. Jay also realized he was being looked at and said, I can feel you're glaring at me. Duan quickly intervened, saying, I'm just grateful that the Jupiter Guild leader personally came here. I'm just here to inspect, nothing else. Although smiling, Duan just wanted this guy to leave quickly. We'll be fine without you. You can go now, Han. Ignoring Jay's subtle hints, Sung Hun still smiled and replied, making him chill. It's sad, isn't it? It's time for you to be more open. Why don't you accept my offer? I haven't decided how to answer when luckily, Hun loudly called Sung Hun, asking what he was doing here. Are you here to play, or are you just too old to keep up? This old lady indeed had a sharp tongue, always teasing others. Jay, without refusing, lightly flicked his finger, sending a huge golden lightning bolt straight down where Han was standing. a helpful move that made Ju-jin and Piss stare in shock, immediately reacting. Jazz, what are you doing? Why would you attack your colleague? To Ju-jin's questioning, the handsome guy just chuckled lightly. His response was like a question, making Ju-jin realize that there was something unusual among them. Underneath Hun's help, his face was now full of green veins. This damned Song Hun Jae wants to fight, doesn't he thought. Well, let's do it, Hun. Like an angry tigress, Hun grabbed her weapon and charged straight towards Jae, who didn't resist but instead stepped back behind Ju-jin, leaving all three of them shocked and astonished. Hun was also startled, not expecting the handsome guy to play such a move. The strike he unleashed was difficult to stop. Hun quickly used all her strength to create a shield to protect both of them, but their faces were still pale with fear. Hun was trying hard to recover, but with the speed of the fall like that, it was uncertain. There was a loud collision between the weapon and the ground as Hun landed with incredible force, shattering the rocks. Luckily, with some divine intervention, she managed to stop the attack just in time, only a step away from where Dune was standing. They both trembled, thanking their ancestors for the recent turn of events, as it had put Dune in danger. Of course, one person wasn't happy about it. Du-hyun immediately scolded, asking why she wasn't careful and why she couldn't see him standing there. How could she act so recklessly like that? Both sides immediately clashed, engaging in a verbal duel that escalated into physical confrontation. It was inevitable. Once the verbal sparring was over, they resorted to using their muscles. Neither of them backed down, both rushing in to exchange blows. Ju-jin, observing the chaos from the outside, anxiously called out for K's intervention, but the instigator of this brawl was none other than him. He simply replied lightly, "We can't do anything about it. Let us handle it alone instead of working as a team." The dungeon was not experiencing explosions as frequently as before, but the prohibition of us entering the dungeon together still stood. Now that they were all here, it was the perfect opportunity for them to fight it out. The unexpected appearance of Jupiter's leader disrupted Ju-jin's calculations, making everything increasingly chaotic. Only now did Ju-jin realize why S shouldn't enter the dungeon together, because while Ju-jin's side faced turmoil, Jim was still happily in another corner of the dungeon, actively fighting monsters and collecting items. It was only when a loud explosion caught her attention that she began to notice the intense solo battle between Hun-ae and Jae-hun, which was still ongoing. They fought as if they had never fought before, unleashing all their strongest skills without holding back. Watching from the outside, tense and worried, there seemed no way to separate them with their immense power, despite their apparent lack of animosity. They even seemed to enjoy it, as if life had become dull outside. They had been restrained for too long, rarely having the chance to indulge in such unrestrained play without worry. They had fought hundreds of rounds, yet neither could claim victory. Indeed, the strength of S-Class didn't seem to have much difference between them. Wins at Namasa sometimes occurred in the blink of an eye, with shockwaves from their weapon clashes constantly causing the surroundings to shatter. Thanks to Song Han's shield, safety was maintained temporarily, but the battle grew fiercer, making Ju-jin worry. If this continued, someone would surely be injured, and he might be the first affected. Despite Song Han's shield, the fragments of shattered stones, charged with the impact force of two S-Class fighters colliding, still pierced through the defensive layer, causing Ju-jin to endure repeated pain. Realizing that his older brother was suffering injuries from the battle, Du-hun quickly halted his hand, ignoring Hun-ae's confusion. He rushed over, continuously asking, "Are you okay, Hyung? Did you get hit by a stone? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Are you okay?" Hun-ae, who was in the middle of a fight, stopped as the opponent left, not pursuing further. Turning back with a serious expression, he said, "You should be more careful. I'm here, you should be more cautious." Du-jin quickly devised a plan to stop this futile battle, albeit a bit cowardly, but pressure knew no bounds. Activating his supreme acting skills, he pretended to be soft and fell to the ground, pretending to be in pain, hoping to end this senseless fight. It was a pity that such a fragile S-Class hunter as himself might perish. Worried and afraid, he wished for both of them to stop fighting and live. "Oh my, I can't sleep at all. And there's no one here to treat me. It feels like I'm going to die." Certainly, Ju-jin's superb acting skills made his younger brother worried to the point of turning pale, and Hana felt guilty for this situation. How could S-Class, normally so powerful, become so weak like this? I'm sorry, Hyeon. Perhaps we shouldn't have made the atmosphere so tense. Hana's words served as a convenient stepping stone for Jujin to add fuel to the fire. Rolling his eyes, he snapped loudly, "Both of you should feel ashamed of yourselves. Look at Song-han and P. They know how to behave better than you. Let's get out of here. You guys aren't children. Why do you bicker like this all the time?" Despite being S-Class, his authority was like that of a team leader. Without knowing where, Jujin pulled out a cap with an impressive emblem of S-Class and put it on. With a whistle in hand, he began to direct like a true coach, swiftly handling the Gollum crowd at 3 o'clock. Sung Hong-jae circled around, checking the perimeter behind the nearby building. Though it was just a minor pressure, with his martial arts skills, he managed to make the unruly crowd obedient. Only now did he breathe a sigh of relief after dealing with this troublesome bunch. They had to be separated to avoid further conflict. A status window popped up. "Congratulations, you have acquired an SS-level skill, Crowd Control. Dubbed the Terrifying Rooster, it's a skill that enables the controller to make awakened beings obedient. Don't like listening to orders, do you? Well, with this skill, worry no more. It's indeed a powerful skill suitable for someone with top-notch acting abilities and exceptional multi-level martial arts prowess." To him, dealing with them was just a minor issue. Not just Song Hong-jae, even the system felt something off about the skill's name. Finally, a tiresome day full of incidents came to an end inside the dungeon, now peaceful and tranquil. Everyone rested and recharged. Sung-han brought a cup of hot coffee to Do-jin for relaxation. Looking at the serene dungeon, Do-jin couldn't help but appreciate their team's efficiency. With this speed, they would soon be out of here. Now, Do-jin had time to observe their surroundings. They seemed to be in what used to be a magnificent city, now a ruined dungeon. It was probably remnants of another world that had collapsed. They were trying to prevent these dungeons from increasing endlessly, but some still wanted to expand their influence. Could they stop it? Or would it end up as the system said, only S-level skills above 50 could stop it? Controlling this bunch was a difficult issue. Unlike a day of chaotic fighting, they now sat peacefully by the fire. Jim blamed the lack of fun fights on the absence of the girl. It seemed all the S-levels were battle-hungry. Ho mentioned Jim's skills and experience were still lacking. Get objected fiercely, claiming she only lacked equipment and she'd show them once she bought some magical gear. Hana enjoyed teasing each person differently. Some were lively, some contemplative, some profound, like Song Hong-jae. Do-jin always had to figure out how to prevent conflicts. Hana ran his hand through his hair, feeling burnt. It seemed difficult to think. Jim suggested just cutting it off, while Hana shared she didn't want long hair. It was merely for commercial purposes, kept at the request of the old sponsor. Hana joked about having to keep up appearances as an S-class hunter, which annoyed Jim. The two sisters then got into a playful scuffle. Sometimes, Hana found the dungeon more bearable than dealing with those old fogies, hoping for a day to punch those old men in the mouth, who should have broken away like the head of Jupiter Society. Song Hong-jae. With a dashing demeanor, Song Hong-jae raised his teacup to his lips, taking a sip, and responded that life couldn't be lived in chains forever. They only cared about money, causing the current situation. Moreover, those who didn't know about high-level dungeons would never understand them. Those inferior beings couldn't be considered the same species as them. With Sung Hong-jae's cold, deep, and insinuating words, Do-jin realized those with superior strength were like predators, capable of controlling other creatures. They had to suppress their instincts in society. Only in the dungeon, free from constraints, could they fully reveal their nature. This made Do-jin realize that while her younger brother seemed perfectly normal on the outside, he was still trying to suppress himself. Not because he was her kind-hearted little brother, but because he was under pressure as an inferior being, preventing him from doing what he wanted. Just because of her, Do-jin's train of thought was interrupted. When Hana asked what was wrong, she replied that he didn't look well, but no matter how Do-H was, one thing wouldn't change. Do-jin was always the most important person to him. Do-H paid attention to every gesture, every small action or expression of Do-jin, to rest and recharge for a new day. Jay and Jim tossed a sleeping bag to Do-jin to ensure his health. "You go to sleep, uncle. We're S-Class, so we don't need to sleep. We'll take turns continuing the dungeon raid. Looking at the whole group, they seemed harmonious. Doon also felt happy immediately after. Then he solemnly asked a question that made everyone pause. No more fighting, right? Remember, our only task is to hunt monsters. Don't get into anything else. If there's any more fighting, I'll report this to Mangu. With that said, Doon left the troublesome group and slipped straight into his sleeping bag. Doon sighed deeply. There were only 4 of them, and he was already exhausted. How would it be with 50 people? But anyway, he had to trust his system. Slowly but surely, it would complete each task. Maybe he would be able to gather 50 Class S hunters to protect the world. Lost in thought, Doon drifted into sleep, unaware of the major event of the Abyss Guild's promotion ceremony to Class S hunters. Doon was jubilant, holding a bouquet of flowers to congratulate Sung Han. However, Sung Han's attitude was unexpectedly cold. He dismissed the flowers and bluntly declared, "Today I will leave Abyss. Being a Class S isn't everything." After his words, Doon appeared out of nowhere, drawing his sword and challenging the other Class S hunters to a fight. A fierce battle between Class S hunters ensued, with Doon shouting desperately to stop them. Just when it seemed they wouldn't listen, a thunderstorm suddenly broke out, grabbing their attention. Doon opened his eyes wide, scanning for any danger. Seeing the tense expressions of Sung Han and Hum Jae, he realized another fight was breaking out. This time, Hum Jae was fighting Sung Hum Jae. Despite Hane's calm demeanor and scratches on Hum Jae's body, the battle seemed to be prolonged. Hana questioned why Hum Jae delayed so much, implying it was because of Hane's absence. Hum Jae simply chuckled, saying he was just a bully with rare skills, but he wasn't afraid of Hanen. As the battle raged on, Hana warned Doon about the dangers of the fight. Despite Hane's attempts to intervene, the clash continued, each blow met with counterattacks. However, Hum Jae's defensive chain seemed impenetrable. As the battle intensified, Hana began losing his composure, and Doon, while fighting, warned of the consequences if his spirit beast arrived. Suddenly, Doon felt dizzy. A warning message appeared on his interface, advising him to leave the area immediately. Shouting to warn everyone, Doon witnessed the ground shaking violently, rocks flying everywhere. Sung Han quickly erected a barrier to protect Rin, while Jim activated his powers, urging people to flee. Jim yelled that it wasn't an earthquake and urged everyone to run, warning that the ground beneath them was cracking. As the ground split open, a gigantic creature emerged, resembling a toad covered in rock and soil. The 4 of them hastily moved away, bewildered by the unfolding events. Although they had faced numerous types of monsters in the dungeon many times before, this was the first time they had seen such a creature. Doon appeared extremely worried because he knew what it was. A giant toad named Bava, capable of swallowing mountains. Its current rank was SS, an SS-class monster appearing in an A-class dungeon. While everyone focused on the boss, Sung Hum Jae observed Jujin attentively. He muttered to himself, surely having noticed something before its appearance. If it wasn't a coincidence, he was hiding something. Sung Hum Jae carefully watched Jujin, suspecting the handsome guy had some ulterior motive with Jujin. Meanwhile, in Jujin's room at the Abyss Guild, Rin and Boss Piss were not present, as they were causing chaos at Griff's house. The chick seemed to be up to something, calling for the girl on duty to open Doon's room. Not finding Doon there, it started crying loudly, alarming the caretaker. Preoccupied with stopping Griff's mischief on the phone, she didn't notice the chick's distress. The chick, seemingly sensing something, cried even louder. Following its cries, a spatial gate began forming, revealing a skittle called Space Dominator. Could this chick possess such formidable power? As the gate expanded, the chick, seeing Jujin and Piss, joyfully ran towards the gate. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Griff phone stumbled and fell onto it, crushing the chick unconscious. The chick lost consciousness, causing the spatial gate to vanish. Therefore, the gate also disappeared, back into the dungeon. At this moment, the whole group was facing an extremely powerful SS-ranked monster. They were bewildered as to how it could appear in a completely sealed dungeon level A. They had no information about this monster. They didn't know how to defeat it. It appeared large and seemingly slow, but with each step it took, the ground shattered and trembled under its weight. Just the pressure from the wind it generated made the whole group feel a tremendous force. The frog creature began to move, chasing and attacking the group who were unsure how to deal with it. They had no choice but to flee. Ram yelled, urging them to use the dungeon stones to escape. However, Dujin couldn't let that happen. They couldn't afford to let the dungeon explode and unleash the creature outside. It would be a human catastrophe. Indeed, this event would happen in a few years in a small town in China. This frog creature would emerge and cause terrible consequences for both humans and the current dungeon. It was located right in the center of the city. If the dungeon exploded, the city would surely be destroyed. So, they had to eliminate it by any means necessary, understanding the severity of the situation. Jae-hyun and Jim returned to confront the high-level monster. Jim immediately used her strongest skills, activating her SS grade skill, Invisible Blade, to enhance Du-hyun's strength. Ju-hyun charged straight at the frog creature, releasing a fireball with double the strength to burn it. Indeed, the blazing fireball from Du-hyun was terrifyingly powerful, engulfing the creature in flames, seemingly able to consume everything. This made the creature pause momentarily. Jin shouted, reminding them of its weakness at the back of its neck, urging them to attack there. Listening to his older brother Du-hyun, Ju-hyun circled behind the frog creature and thrust her sword down, aiming at the scar on its neck. However, despite Du-hyun's powerful strike, the thick and tough skin of the creature remained impenetrable. A joining from above also contributed, thrusting his spear straight down to avoid Du-hyun's fatal attack, which was his specialty. A powerful thrust with extreme force from above managed to penetrate the thick skin, but only halfway. Hun's spear remained stuck as the creature retaliated, tearing a long gash across its neck, but still not enough. The creature's body regeneration ability was rapid. Within moments, the wound seemed to disappear without a trace. Jae also joined the attack, using her SS grade chain to restrain the creature to limit its movement, then summoning a thunderbolt to strike at its neck. However, despite the immense power of the attack, it only made the frog creature slightly stagger. It seemed to be in pain. The pain made it furious. It leaped high into the air, then slammed down on the ground with such force that the entire dungeon shook like an earthquake, sending shockwaves that shattered the surrounding rocks at bullet-like speeds, creating numerous large cracks in the ground as if it were being torn apart. The debris around was also affected by the earthquake, starting to collapse entirely. The group had to struggle hard to avoid being affected by the recent attack. While everyone worried about safety, the frog creature's wound had fully healed. Hun, concerned, advised Dujin to go out first, but of course, Dujin couldn't leave. He devised a plan to defeat this boss, but everyone needed to work together to kill it. With normal skills, they surely couldn't pierce its skin. They needed a strategy. Dujin began to assign tasks to each person. Jae and Jim were to freeze the boss's neck, and then Jae-hyun was to use black flames to burn it immediately. Everyone realized that Dujin was applying scientific knowledge, using rapid temperature changes to weaken the creature's skin. Sung-hung Jae, curious, asked how he knew this information, only through monster training skills. As Dujin was focusing on the plan, he only briefly answered, I have that ability. Dujin returned to his plan. The third attacker would be Hun-ae, but she hesitated because they had never cooperated before, fearing that if it didn't work, it would make the creature go mad again.